Hey guys, what's going on? Anthony here with Pistons Talk. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. I am not going to be able to record the podcast because tomorrow is Easter and I want to be spending it with family. But just wanted to give you guys a little heads up. This is going to be a pre-recorded episode of the podcast that will be premiering on YouTube tomorrow at 7:30. Just wanted to give you guys a quick heads up, and I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Welcome to Pistons Talk Podcast. Happy Easter. Hope you guys are having a great weekend. We have a very good show for you guys today. We're going to get straight into it, you guys. So this week, Monty Williams got into it with the New York Knicks again. The first time Monty got into it with the New York Knicks, I was okay with it. I didn't really have any problems with it whatsoever. I really didn't. I thought Dante DiVincenzo, 100% WWE Roman Reigns speared him, and the Knicks won that game on a last-second shot from Josh Hart. I was with Monty on that. I thought the officiating was really bad in that game, and I thought it was a no call. But this time, Monty Williams got into it again with the New York Knicks, and he was complaining about them running up the score late in the game. And for you guys that don't know what I'm talking about, these are direct quotes from SportsCenter. Going to put them on the screen for you guys to see and read them. So this comes from Monty after, the Knicks ran up the score and Dante DiVincenzo had a 40-piece on us. Monty says, quote, "I don't care about their team at all. I could care less. Those guys, the way they got the threes. I don't want to be a part of that story." Josh Hart heard this, and this is his reaction of hearing Monty have that quote. He says, quote, "If he didn't want to be part of the story, he should have told his guys to defend better." And I'm laughing at this because, like I said at the top of the podcast, like the first Knick game where Asar Thompson got tackled, I 100% was with Monty on that. I took Monty Williams' side. This time, I really can't take his side. I think the Knicks running up the score towards the end of the game this week, if you want a team not to score the basketball, defend them. Throw a defender at them. If you're mad that Dante DiVincenzo set a New York Knicks three-point record, again, game plan for one of their better players on their team. He's been a sharpshooter all season, Monty. You should have game planned for him. You don't want him to make 11 threes, run him off that three-point line, trap him. He was the hottest guy during that game. He had 40 points. You should have doubled him. You should have game planned something out of halftime. You should have game planned something out of the timeouts. Like, you can't say you don't care, and one breath you say you don't care, and another breath you're like, I don't want to be a part of the story. Well, you're a part of the story. The team is, you got 13 wins now. You're 13-60. You're still one of the worst teams in the NBA. You're going to probably set the franchise record for the worst Detroit Pistons season in Pistons history. Like, you're part of the story. You're part of the reason why the Detroit Pistons have been so bad this season. I can't take Monty's side on this. I think if you don't want a team running up the score late in the fourth quarter, do something about it. Tell your guys to follow them hard. Tell your guys to trap them. Tell your guys to be physical. Like, I found this comical from Monty's standpoint, just for the fact that he says he doesn't care, but he said he doesn't want to be, part of this story, part of history for Dante DiVincenzo breaking the record. Making 11 three-pointers in a game is a Knick franchise record now held by Dante. So shout out to him for, one, making 11 three-pointers in a game. That's some, NBA 2K video game stuff. You don't really see that too often. As a Piston fan, it was tough to watch, but as a basketball fan, at the end of the day, I enjoyed it. Like, that was probably the coolest 40-piece I've ever, witnessed. As just a basketball fan, but as a Piston fan, it was hard to watch. Again, like, I don't understand it. Like, you don't want to be part of history, but you didn't do anything about it. That's just my stance on it. I'm sure you guys are probably going to go absolute crazy with, Monty and, his complaints about the New York Knicks, and, not wanting to be a part of history when he Now he is part of history. He doesn't want to be part of the story. He is part of the story. He is part of the problem. I'm sure you guys are just probably when you saw that, when you saw the interview with Bailey after the Pistons game, you probably just rolling your eyes or turning the TV off saying like, man, this guy, like, really? I found it funny personally. I really did. That he even had comments like that. Now, the next topic I did want to get into, you guys, was an article from Bleacher Report this week. And I want to say it was maybe a day or two ago. And they had a mock trade with your Detroit Pistons. And it was for Andrew Wiggins. Now, I'm going to put the trade on the screen for you guys to see. And here it is. So in this mock trade from Bleacher Report, the Pistons would get Andrew Wiggins, Gary Payton, 2026 and 2028 picks from the Atlanta Hawks, and a 2029 second-round pick as well. Now, the Pistons would not be sending any players in this deal. The only thing they would send is a 2030 second-round pick. Now, Bleacher Report goes on to say that the Pistons could have as much as $60 million in cap space this offseason. They should use some of it to take on veterans and picks from a team looking to shed salary. The Warriors are a potential partner, as both Wiggins and Payton are immediate starters/rotation pieces who could help Detroit get back in the play-in picture next season. Detroit would also acquire 3 second-round picks in this trade. It could easily absorb the contracts, both Wiggins on 2 years, $54.5 million, with a $30.2 million player option in 2026, 2027, and Payton on a 1 year, $9.1 million player option in 2024, 2025. So I've told you guys before, even before this article was published, Andrew Wiggins to me makes so much sense for the Detroit Pistons. I know a lot of you guys, like, you shrug it. You're like, dude, I don't want Andrew Wiggins. Well, why do you even mention that? Like, why would we want Andrew Wiggins? When you look at Wiggins in kind of his contract situation, right? He's going to be under contract until 2027. 100% he would take that player option. No one's walking away from $30 million. I'm sorry, they're not. So he'd be under contract until he's 32 years old, and he's still only 28. He'll be 29 going into next season, right? And I mean, the contract is what it is. He's a wing. He can defend. Now, he has had struggles. I will admit he has struggled a lot in Golden State, and I'm not going to say it's because he's a bad basketball player. I will say the reason why I think he's struggling is more of an off-the-court issue with the family member that is sick, and that has been very well documented. He does have a family member that is very sick right now, and I think it's kind of taking a toll on him. Now, I don't know if that family member has gotten better since then, but I think at the end of the day, he's still a good player. I mean, if he were to get traded to Detroit, he's arguably your second best player? And that's not saying a whole lot, right? I mean, Cade Cunningham obviously is your best player, but you put him in a lineup with Cade Cunningham, I think he makes his life a hell of a lot easier. You have another wing that Asar Thompson could learn under. You have another wing that's versatile, can shoot threes, good defender, really good cutting. I've always been a very high on Andrew Wiggins, and I know he's not the most sexy name out there. I know people, they like the Lauri Markkanens, the Brandon Ingram, the Trey Murphys. Like, I get it. But this is kind of like a B- type of player that I think that the Pistons could realistically target. I really do. Gary Payton is another interesting player. Obviously, Bleacher Report had said that, he's going to be on a similar type deal. He's under contract until 2025. He's got a player option for $9.1 million. He's probably going to accept that because who wouldn't want $9.1 million? I know I would. But when he's right and when he's healthy, he's one of the better perimeter defenders in the NBA. And obviously, he hasn't been healthy. He's had some health concerns. He's had some health issues. But he's a veteran point guard at the end of the day. He's 31 years old. He could be a backup point guard for this team. He could be a rotational piece in a trade like this. And I like the fact that the Pistons really don't have to, give up anything in this trade. Basically, the Warriors would salary dump. And the reason why I think the Warriors would make a move like this is they're in cap space hell. And I think there are teams just like Golden State that you're going to see the Pistons linked to a lot, because the Pistons have the most cap space this summer. They have up to $60 million in cap space. They can position themselves and put themselves in trades like this. I'm not saying they're going to do it Andrew Wiggins and Gary Payton trade, but there are going to be teams in the NBA, teams that underperformed this playoffs. Like I'd keep an eye on Minnesota. They're going to be in cap space hell. I'd keep an eye on New Orleans. That's a team that I would really zero in, because they have a lot of wings that you could target. Trey Murphy, Alec Najee, even Herb Jones to an extent. Like, they have a lot of wings on that team. I mean, you even got guys like Brandon Ingram. I don't know. Maybe. You never know. You really never know. If New Orleans wants to keep that team together, it's getting very expensive for a team that's never won an NBA championship, never really had a deep playoff run because of injuries. And, they just get bounced in the playoffs. I think another team I'd keep an eye on too is the Phoenix Suns. Given they have no draft capital, they have a very expensive team. And I think if they don't at least make it to the Western Conference Finals, they might have to split that up. Maybe they put Booker on the block. Maybe they try to trade Beal. Maybe KD wants out. I don't know. But that's in a very expensive team to keep together. And that's a team I would keep an eye on. I know a lot of Pistons fans. I said Devin Booker, they probably lit up like a Christmas tree. I know they want Devin Booker back in Detroit. I would love Devin Booker back in Detroit. You never know. But those are some teams I would definitely keep an eye on. Golden State, Minnesota, New Orleans, Phoenix. Those are all teams that the Pistons could take advantage of because they have cap space. And they could, help those teams get out of cap space hell. But at the end of the day, you actually have to get players. And that's why I'm a little bit nervous, because we've had cap space before and we did the other team's favors. I'm talking about the Knicks. Like, the Knicks wanted to sign Jalen Brunson. They didn't have the cap space. What did the Pistons do? We took on Kemba Walker, no knees Kemba Walker, Alec Burks, and I think there was another player a part of that trade. I just don't remember. But we've done that in the past where we've had cap space and we've done the other team's favors, but we really don't get, an NBA rotational piece back. I'm hoping this summer, with $60 million in cap space, they look at teams like Phoenix, they look at teams like Golden State, New Orleans, and try to take advantage of that. And I think they should. And I think a lot of you guys would probably agree with that. When you have that much cap space and you look at free agency, and it's very underwhelming. There's not a lot of star power this free agency. Look to the trade market. Look for teams that are desperate. Look for teams that want to get out of that cap space hell. And, you can kind of help them get out of that cap space hell. But, try to get a player that can help this team. Try to get a player that can help Cade Cunningham and, possibly Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Asar Thompson. Try to help them, get to that next level. Because I think all of us can agree this season, wash. I want to do like the Men in Black Flash thing and like get it out of my memory. These past 2 seasons have been absolute crap. And I think all of you guys would probably agree. But again, don't be surprised if you see trades like that happen. Don't be surprised if you see, Golden State, Phoenix, New Orleans. I think it could happen. I really do. But I know I rambled for a little bit. Wanted to talk to you guys about Richard Hamilton, okay? And you're probably wondering, why Richard Hamilton? You talked about Darko last week, now Richard Hamilton. So Rip has said that he wants to be involved in management. Now, the reason why I'm bringing this up and the reason why we're going to talk about this is there's a very strong possibility that we see some front office changes this summer. Now, I'm not saying Troy Weaver is going to get fired. I'm not. I'm not saying that Tom Gores is going to fire Monty Williams. I'm not saying any of that. What I am suggesting is I think there's a very strong possibility that Richard Hamilton could be working for the Detroit Pistons in some kind of capacity. And the reason why I'm saying this and the reason why I'm talking about this is I want you guys to look at this picture. Okay. Now, this was taken this week. And Rip is in the Pistons locker room. And he says, be impactful. And there's a tweet from James Edwards. And this was on March 17th when the Going to Work Pistons were honored at halftime. It's been 20 years since they won a championship. We all know that. We understand it. So James's tweet really caught my attention. And it got me paying attention. It said, Rip says he doesn't have interest in coaching, but has an interest in management. Let me read that again. Rip doesn't have an interest in coaching, but has an interest in management. You guys, the Detroit Pistons never hired assistant GMs when Rob Murphy got axed. There's a vacancy for an assistant GM in this front office. Now, I know some of you will probably go right off the bat and say, fire Weaver, hire Rip. Because I know that's how hyperbolic you guys are. I do. It's just very interesting when you kind of, connect the dots. You go over to the Detroit Pistons YouTube channel right now, right? They have a mic'd up series with Richard Hamilton. Rip is mic'd up during the 04 stuff, talking to media, talking to fans. And if you pay attention, he's sitting right next to Arntellum the entire time that they were watching the game. And previously, before they even honored the Go Into Work Pistons, Rip was at a Pistons game sitting with Arntellum again. Now, Rip has said, hey, I want to be involved in management. I want to get involved. Rip is with the vice president of the Detroit Pistons, Arntellum. Okay? He's with him. Maybe Arn's dropping some knowledge to Rip. Maybe he really wants to do this front office stuff, do this management stuff. Maybe he wants to work for the Detroit Pistons. I think that would be a hell of a homecoming for Pistons fans. We'd love to have one of our own, one of the best shooting guards in Pistons history, be in the front office, have some type of role in the front office. And Rip, I think a lot of you guys would probably love being in the front office. I know I would. He's one of my favorite players growing up. I think just having someone that has won a championship in this city, had a very unique journey to the NBA, got traded for a guy that was averaging 30 points in Jerry Stackhouse, wasn't really known as a defender, but bought into that defensive-minded Detroit Pistons with Ben Wallace, Chauncey, and all those guys. I think if Rip wants to get involved in management, he wants to get involved in any type of front office or ownership, I would welcome it 100%, you guys. I really would. I think the Pistons, since Tom Gores has bought the team, they've kind of kicked out all the people that win championships. I'm talking about Joe Dumars. Tom Gores kicked out Joe Dumars as a GM and a VP and all that stuff. He kicked out guys like Arnie Kander, who was a long-time team doctor, along with Mike Abdenauer. They're no longer with the Pistons anymore. Mike Abdenauer obviously retired. Arnie's with the Magic. There's a lot of great people that worked for this organization, whether it was with the Bad Boys, whether it was with the Go in the Work crew. They're no longer here. And I think what you're seeing right now is the people that do work for the Detroit Pistons, they don't have any of that knowledge. They don't have any of the know-how to get to that next level. Under Tom Gores, they've made the playoffs twice, but they've been 8 seeds and they've been bounced out of the first round, right? I think how this kind of connects the dots and how this relates to Richard Hamilton wanting to be involved in management, how it relates is if you have a guy like Richard Hamilton, let's just say he's in the front office, you're starting to bring back the culture that's been missing with the Detroit Pistons for so long. This team has no culture right now. I think what they're doing off the court with a lot of, personalities like Ty Mopkins, I absolutely love that. He did a podcast with Lindsey Hunter on the Pistons YouTube channel. Definitely check it out. I love that type of stuff. But the reason why I said that they're missing culture is this front office is so far removed from guys like Joe Dumars that won 2 championships as a player and 1 as a general manager. And I think Rip can kind of, bring that culture back, mend some fences. Maybe, they mend some fences with Rasheed Wallace. Maybe they mend some fences with Joe Dumars, because Joe Dumars hasn't been around the Pistons since he got fired. Rasheed Wallace hasn't been around the Pistons since Richard Hamilton's jersey retirement. I think hiring Rip in the front office role, I would absolutely be 100% all in for. I think he can bring, some younger guys, because Rip is still around the NBA. He's still around a lot of, current NBA players. I think you get some, young blood in that front office, because if we're being honest, you guys, like, our front office is old. Like, none of those guys are like really young and could relate to NBA players now. I think Rip could relate to the younger generation a little bit better. And I think it would just honestly be a good hire. That's something I want you guys to pay attention to, though. Like, he wants to be involved in management. He wants to, work in a front office, possibly own a team. Who knows? Doubt he's going to buy the Pistons. Of course, said he's not going to sell, but hey, I would love to see him, come back to the Detroit Pistons and work for them. But I did want to spend a couple of minutes on that, because I think a lot of you guys, once you kind of connect the dots, you connect that tweet from James earlier, and you kind of connect him being around the Detroit Pistons a hell of a lot more, like a lot. Usually you see Rip like maybe once a year. He's been a lot. I mean, think about it. He's done stuff where he was at the lottery when the Pistons got the 5th pick for Jaden Ivey. He's done a lot of stuff on social media with the Pistons, whether it's being mic'd up. I think he wants to be involved. He wants to get his foot in the door. And I think a good place to do it is a team that you win a championship in 2004, and you had a lot of great years here. And I think the fans would absolutely love it. I know I would love it, getting a former player in the front office that knows what it takes to win at the end of the day. But again, you guys, pay attention to stuff like that. I know it may be minor. It may be sound like I'm reaching, but you really never know. I think there's a real chance that he does get some sort of role with the Pistons this summer. That's just me, though. I don't have any inside information. It's just the gut feeling I have. So these last 2 topics are news that came out last night after the game. You guys probably saw Quinton Grimes out for the season, right? And I have no problems with Quinton Grimes being shut down for the season. I'll read you the tweet real quick. This comes from Shams Charania, and we can kind of dissect this tweet and talk about the trade. So Shams Charania says, sources, Detroit Pistons guard Quinton Grimes will miss the rest of the season due to rehab, lingering muscle soreness related to knee injury suffered in January. No surgery required, and bone bruise and knee has healed. Grimes will be eligible for an extension prior to next season. Okay, let's talk about Quinton Grimes for a couple of minutes, okay? Now, at the time, when I saw the trade, I was kind of like, okay, he's young, good defender, could play the passing lanes, can shoot, but inconsistent. I thought the trade, at the end of the day, it's a kind of like okay trade. It wasn't like the Fontecchio trade where I thought, we're getting like a guy that can contribute, fill it up. But why I wanted to talk about this is the Pistons traded for him in February. Rams Karania tweeted that if you look at the tweet, he will miss the rest of the season to rehab a lingering muscle soreness related to a knee injury he suffered in January. So, the Detroit Pistons knew full well that Quinton Grimes was injured when they traded for him. That's my problem. Okay, now it's not a serious knee injury. He doesn't need surgery. Cool. That's great. I mean, we saw that they traded for Bol and they rescinded the trade. I was kind of surprised they didn't rescind the trade for Quinton Grimes, but hey, that's another topic for another podcast another day. I'm not going to get into that. The reason why I wanted to talk about this for a few minutes is I don't trust this medical staff. I don't trust it. They've given me no evidence to trust this medical staff. If he's gonna, rehab this knee this summer because it's something he injured when he's with the Knicks, okay. But he played in games. He played with the Pistons while he was injured. That's what I'm saying. Like, I don't trust this medical staff. Like, if his knee was that bad where he basically got shut down, we saw him a handful of times this year. I just don't trust it. I don't. And qualifying offer, I don't think they give him one. They're not giving him a qualifying offer this summer. There's no way. There's no way the Pistons give Quinton Grimes a qualifying offer this summer. He hasn't played enough games. He hasn't shown me that he can stay healthy, even though they did just trade for him. You trade for an injured player again, Troy. I don't understand the fascination with it. I guess they could try to sell fans that he's a first-round talent, and that's why we traded for him, injured or not. But I don't know, you guys. It's just a bad look that you knew that he was injured. You traded for him anyways. And you kind of just was like, hey, what's the best offer we're going to get for Bojan and Burks? Might as well. Oh, well. Might as well trade Burks because he's going to be a free agent this summer. He's not going to resign for us this summer. Might as well trade Bojan while we can. Probably the best offer we could get. I don't know, man. I don't trust our medical staff. I just don't. They haven't given me confidence that they can handle an injury. They can manage an injury correctly. It's just past, maybe 5 to 7 years, this medical staff. I don't know if it's the same medical staff either. But I mentioned at the top of the podcast, ever since Mike Abdenauer and Artie Kander are no longer with this Detroit Pistons medical staff anymore. I mean, some of these injuries that these guys have, I mean, you look at the injury reports this time in March, I mean, there's like 7 to 8 players out this time of year. I know it's the end of the season, but like Fontecchio's had a bruised toe for a week? I don't know. I don't trust it. I don't think fans should trust this medical staff. I think that the fact that they traded for an injured player and they knew he was injured and they played him this season just to see what he looks like anyways, they could have done damage to his injured knee. Not a good look if you're a Piston fan, and it shouldn't really give you confidence going forward with this front office that they're okay with trading for injured players. Like, it's just not. Now, I don't know like how serious his injury is. Sham said it's healed and he's just going to be rehabbing this summer. But I don't know, man. That's sketchy. that's sketchy if you ask me. Front office that played a guy that was injured anyways, just to see what he looks like. Who knows what they jacked him up with so he could play. I mean, look what they did to Blake Griffin. They injected him with so much steroids so he could play, and he had a leg brace all the way up to his like mid thigh. He had like a Stone Cold Steve Austin knee brace so he could play. That's just the medical staff I don't trust, and I don't think Pistons fans should trust either. If there's one thing I'd like Tom Gores to do is, you got your coach, invest into a medical staff that will properly manage players and play them when they're 100% healthy, and don't play them just because you want to get a look at them because you just traded for them. I think that's a goal that I think the Pistons and Tom Gores should look at, is upgrading that medical staff 100%. But we're going to move on to the final topic of this podcast, you guys. And the Pistons decided to sign Chimezie Metu for the rest of the season. Here is the tweet from Woj, just came out this morning, saying that they're signing Metu for the rest of the season on a team option for 2024-2025. Sources tell ESPN Metu just completed the 10-day with the Detroit Pistons. Now, like I said, this is a 10-day for a guy that the Pistons had to sign. Stewart's out for the remainder of the season with the hamstring injury. Kind of relates to the last topic. Like, is he actually injured? How serious is the hamstring injury? How long is he going to be out? Will be good to go by summer? Like, I'm not going to ramble about the medical staff anymore. But Metu signing for the remainder of the season. Should you care? No. Is he going to be here long term? Probably not. It's just because Stu's injured. If Stu was healthy, I don't even think the Pistons would have signed Chimezie Metu. Not to say that he's a bad player. He's not. It's just he's more of a maybe 11th, 12th, or even a 13th man on your team. He's not a guy that should be starting for your basketball team. He's just not. But like I said, it's late March. There's a couple of games left. I understand why the Pistons are signing him for the remainder of the season. He's a guy that the Pistons can use in training camp. They can use the summer for guys to work out with. And I think it's just going to be a body at the end of the day. He'll probably get waived as we get closer to the season next, like September, October. But I don't see a long-term fit with this guy on this team. I don't see the Pistons keeping him around. I could argue that Tosan Awoma has shown me more being integrated in the starting lineup, getting kind of thrown in the fire out there with all the injuries. He's shown me more as a guy that I'd rather keep long-term than a Metu. But like I said, that's another conversation for another day. But this kind of wanted to update you guys on that. Metu will be here for the rest of the season. I don't really think a barometer for a fan's like give a crap level. I think it should be really low. I don't really think you should care that he's going to be here for the remainder of the season, because I guarantee you, going into next season, he probably won't be on the roster. You should have a completely new roster, and I don't think Chimezie Metu will be on it. But that's kind of like my 2 cents on it. Like I said, this just wanted to keep you guys updated on the transactions, but that's really all that happened this week with the Detroit Pistons. It's been very dry. As you guys can see, we're definitely going to get into the mock drafts. We're going to get into draft prospects going forward. I think what I'm going to start doing is we're going to pick a player, or you know what? This is what we're going to do. We're going to let you guys decide. You guys decide starting next week which player you want us to dive into, which draft prospect in the top 5. Or it doesn't even have to be a top 5 pick. It could just be a player that you're interested in. Comment on this video which draft prospect you would want us to get into, and we'll give them a dedicated topic to next week's podcast and talk about it. So, when the NBA draft comes around, we are fully engaged. We know these guys. We know what to expect. We know their strengths. We know their weaknesses. But hope you guys are having a great Easter. Again, apologize for the shortened podcast. It's only about a 35-minute episode. Hope you guys do enjoy it. We will be back next week. I am going to try to get a good guest for you guys because I feel like you guys do enjoy when I do have a guest on. And I actually do enjoy it because hosting a solo podcast is actually pretty difficult. But I'm going to try to get on a guest. Maybe I'll try to get a beat writer on, kind of give us an outlook for what to expect this offseason and what we should look for in terms of free agency trades, draft. But appreciate you guys listening. If you are listening on the audio side, on the podcast side, be sure to give us a 5-star rating. It does help the podcast out a lot. And if you are still watching on YouTube, if you do want to give us a thumbs up and a subscribe, we do appreciate it. Helps the channel out a lot. I will see you guys next Sunday at 7:30. Hope you guys are staying safe. Take care. Peace.